11 Pipers Piping, performed by VoiceGod.
The morning of the 11th rite arrived with a heaviness that Marrowbone village had no word for. Even the lamps seemed reluctant to burn, their flames thin and tremulous, as though shrinking from the windows rather than warming them. The dark star hung overhead like a wound in the sky, pulsing softly, no longer distant, no longer indifferent. Old Merritt, the conductor of this day's rite, felt its rhythm in his chest the moment he rose from his bed, and for the first time in his life, he wondered whether his heart beat alone or in answer to something vast. He stepped outside and nearly staggered. The sky above Marrowbone looked bruised, streaked with purples and greens that bled into one another like rotting fruit, and behind the dark star, only barely perceptible, was a movement, a shift. The faintest shape suggested more than seen, but there, too tall, too wide, too antlered to belong to any dream one could survive. He breathed the name before he could stop himself. Skelmarok. It tasted wrong on his tongue, like a secret freshly dug from cold earth. The pipers were gathered already, 11 of them, in bone-white cloaks, the pipes cradled in their arms like infants awaiting christening. The instruments were carved from old Marrowbone, etched with ridges, grooves, strange motifs no carver in the village remembered learning. Jorah Pike, eldest of the chosen 11, ran a thumb down his pipe's length and frowned as though it recoiled from him.
"You seen the sky, Merritt?"
he asked, without looking up. Merritt only nodded. Jorah whispered something soft and bitter, the kind of prayer spoken by men who no longer expected to be heard. The villagers gathered around the stone circle, moving with the quiet dread of beast, sensing a storm one cannot outrun. The children stayed inside, behind shuttered windows. Even the dogs kept low to the ground. No one smiled, but no one wept either. Tears belong to other seasons. When the drums began their slow pulsing thud, Merritt lifted his hand. The pipers raised their instruments. 11 deep breaths were drawn in unison, and then the music began. The sound should have been a lullaby of sorts, harsh and discordant by any mortal standard, but soothing to the sleeper's dreaming mind. Instead, the very first note bent as if the air itself twisted its spine. A shiver passed through the villagers. Merritt felt it crawl along his bones. Another note snapped mid-breath, splitting into two shrieks that warred against each other before dissolving. Jorah's fingers spasmed. The young piper bit down on her lip until it split. Two others lost their rhythm entirely, producing nothing but airless wheezes, and above them, the dark star pulsed again. Once, then again, slower, hungrier, as though savoring the dissonance. Blood dripped from someone's nostrils, Another piper's eyes watered until tears streaked down her cheeks in thin pink lines. Jorah took a breath too quickly and gagged on it. The pipe trembled violently in his hands. Then it shattered. Bone shards tore through his cheek, embedded in his throat, burst outward in a mist of blood. He dropped to his knees, gasping soundlessly. The villagers cried out. The circle broke. The drums faltered. Snow churned beneath frantic feet, and the sky answered. Clouds bulged inward, collapsing like lung tissue under immense pressure. Something behind them, something colossal, shifted. An outline emerged with dreadful clarity. A vast set of branching antlers, spiderwebbing across the heavens. A serpentine mass coiling slowly between them. And beneath it all, a suggestion of a skull that was not a skull, but a maw dreaming of shapes it had not yet devoured. The sleeper stirred. The music, broken and panicked though it was, no longer soothed him. It summoned him. One piper screamed as her pipe continued playing long after her fingers fell slack, producing a single unwavering tone that vibrated her entire arm until it dislocated from the shoulder with a wet pop. Another collapsed, convulsing, her feet drumming the snow in time with a rhythm none of the living kept. A third tore her own cloak off as though it was smothering her, only to discover her voice was trapped beneath her tongue, swallowed by the wrongness in the air. Merritt alone did not run. He stood, rooted to the earth, arms trembling, breath shaking, as he lifted his face to the heavens. The dark star flickered, brightening from within, like an ember being coaxed into flame. Behind it, the silhouette grew sharper. Antlers stretched farther, coils unwound. Something like an eye opened, though it contained neither pupil nor mercy, only hunger, collapsing in on itself. Skelmarak was not awake, but sleep had loosened its grip on him. The music had failed. The 11th rite had not pushed him down. It had pulled him nearer. Merritt whispered, voice cracking and breaking. There is only one day left. The dark star pulsed again, slow, deliberate, patient, as though tasting the fear that rose from the village like warmth from dying embers. And Marrowbone Village understood in the marrow of its bones that tomorrow's rite would be all that stood between the world and the antlered mouth of a dreaming god.